Silent Night and the Christmas Truce. How a simple song traveled from an Austrian village to a battlefield. On Christmas Eve in 1914, in the icy mud of the Western Front, something extraordinary happened. Soldiers who had been trying to kill one another just hours earlier suddenly stopped, listened, and recognized a familiar melody drifting through the cold air. Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, Silent Night, Holy Night. To understand why this moment became one of the most powerful symbols of peace in the middle of World War I, we need to go back almost a century earlier to the quiet origins of the song itself. A song born in simplicity and hard times. The story of Silent Night begins in the Austrian Alps, not in a grand cathedral, but in a quiet village where life was shaped by post-war hardship. In 1816, a young priest named Joseph Mohr wrote a 6-verse poem titled Stille Nacht. Europe was still recovering from the Napoleonic Wars, and many families were struggling with hunger, homelessness, and grief. The world felt uncertain and wounded. Mohr's poem offered the opposite feeling: calm, light, gentleness. It imagined a peaceful night where all was bright and safe. 2 years later, in 1818, Mohr was serving at the small parish church in Oberndorf near Salzburg. The legend says that the church organ was damaged, possibly by rust or floodwaters from the nearby river, and could not be used for Christmas Mass. Whether the story is perfectly true or not, Mohr needed a song that could be performed with guitar instead of organ, and he needed it quickly. On Christmas Eve, he walked to the nearby village of Arnsdorf and asked his friend Franz Xaver Gruber, a schoolteacher and organist, to write a melody for the poem. Gruber composed a simple, peaceful tune, one easy to sing and warm enough to fit the meaning of the words. That night, Mohr played the guitar while he and Gruber led their small congregation. In the very first performance of Silent Night, they could not have known that the song would someday circle the world. How a village carol became an international song. The spread of Silent Night might never have happened if not for one man, Karl Morischer, a traveling organ builder who serviced the Oberndorf church. According to Gruber, Morischer was so moved by the song that he carried a handwritten copy back to his home region in the Tyrolean Alps. From there, 2 famous families of folk singers, the Strassers and the Rainers, adopted the tune and began performing it at markets, concerts, and royal gatherings. By 1819, just 1 year after its creation, the Rainers were already performing Silent Night in their Christmas shows. They sang it before Franz I of Austria and Tsar Alexander I of Russia, spreading its fame among Europe's highest circles. In 1839, they introduced the song to the United States with a performance in New York City, the first American appearance of the carol. By the 1840s, Silent Night was widely sung across German-speaking Europe and became a favorite of King Frederick William IV of Prussia. Its melody gradually shifted from Gruber's original moderate tempo to the slower, gentler version we know today. Then, in 1859, an Episcopal priest in New York, John Freeman Young, created the English translation most of the world sings today. His simple words, Silent Night, Holy Night, all is calm, all is bright, carried the song farther than ever before. By the early 20th century, Silent Night was deeply woven into Christmas traditions in dozens of countries. It was familiar to Americans, Germans, Brits, French families, and soldiers across Europe, which is why in the winter of 1914, it became the spark that softened a battlefield.
1914, when Silent Night reached the trenches. The winter of 1914 was bitter and cruel. World War I had begun only months earlier, but the Western Front had already devolved into muddy trenches, constant danger, and unbearable losses. The space between enemy lines, the desolate stretch known as No Man's Land, was filled with barbed wire, shell holes, and fallen soldiers. Yet even amid the suffering, memories of home remained. And when Christmas came, those memories grew stronger. A carol floats across No Man's Land. On the evening of December 24th, 1914, German soldiers along parts of the front placed small Christmas trees, Tannenbäume, On their trench edges, their flickering candles glowed in the darkness. Then the men began to sing, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht. British soldiers recognized the tune immediately. Many of them had grown up singing the English version. They responded with their own voices, singing carols back across no man's land. The shared melody became a bridge. Soldiers began calling out greetings, Merry Christmas and Frohe Weihnachten. And slowly, cautiously, men climbed out of their trenches. Men who were enemies a moment ago meet as friends. In several places along the Western Front, troops met between the lines and exchanged small gifts, cigarettes and cigars, food such as sausages, puddings, and chocolate, badges and small keepsakes, handshakes and smiles. Some units conducted joint burial services for fallen soldiers who had been lying in no man's land for days, honoring them together with prayers and shared silence. And then came one of the most unforgettable scenes of the entire war. The football games, a temporary truce, a spontaneous match. Although the Christmas truce included singing, gift-giving, and shared burials, nothing has captured the world's imagination more than the stories of soldiers playing soccer in no man's land. The idea of enemies kicking a ball instead of firing rifles has become one of the most powerful symbols of peace in modern history. And while the matches were not organized in the professional sense, the evidence from letters and diaries shows that genuine games, joyful, messy, and deeply human, did take place along several points of the Western Front. What made these games so extraordinary was not their athletic skill, but their meaning. They revealed how easily war could vanish when people saw each other as fellow human beings rather than targets. What the soldiers said, first-hand voices from the front. Many accounts describe soldiers pouring out of their trenches with a cheerful energy, eager to enjoy a few hours of normal life. One German soldier even shouted across to the British, "We not fire tomorrow. Have holiday, game of football." In several letters, British soldiers reported seeing the Germans roll out an actual leather soccer ball. In other places, troops made do with improvised balls, a tin, a bundle of rags, or anything light enough to kick. Despite mud, snow, and shell craters, the soldiers laughed and ran with childlike excitement. One British veteran later said it felt like being back at school again, if only for 20 minutes. Lieutenant Johannes Niemann of the German 133rd Saxon Regiment wrote in his diary that a proper game of football broke out in his sector, with caps or greatcoats marking the goalposts and his side winning 3-2. Private Ernie Williams of the 6th Cheshire Regiment remembered a huge unorganized kickabout involving around 200 men. No referee, no real teams, just joyful chaos. Other diaries mention slipping in the mud, cheering for good kicks, and soldiers running in heavy coats while trying not to fall into shell holes. The scene was clumsy, hilarious, and profoundly human. Where the games happened, historians now recognize several key locations where football games took place. Frelinghien, France, Niemann's now famous 3-2 match between German Saxons and Scottish Highlanders. Wolvergem, Belgium, multiple British soldiers reported a lively kickabout here. Ypres Salient, a large informal game involving about 200 men, described by veteran Ernie Williams. Wherever the ground was relatively safe and the officers were not too strict, a football was bound to appear. Why these games still matter? In the middle of the most brutal war the world had ever seen, soccer became a gentle reminder of home. It was an activity that British and German boys alike had grown up playing in fields, backyards, and schoolyards. For a brief moment, feet replaced rifles, laughter replaced explosions, and teamwork replaced fear. Every kick of the ball was a rebellion against the violence around them. The games did not last long, and the war soon resumed its terrible course. But the memory of those matches remains a powerful symbol of peace, not imagined peace, but a peace that was actively chosen by ordinary men. How a simple song helped create a historic peace. It is impossible to say that Silent Night caused the Christmas Truce, but it undeniably opened the door. The carol's gentle message of calm and peace, familiar to soldiers on both sides, softened hearts long enough for enemies to realize they were not so different after all. One German officer, Walter Kirchhoff, even sang Silent Night in both German and English, inspiring British soldiers to stop and listen. Commanders quickly ordered the men back to fighting, but the memory of that brief moment when weapons were lowered, voices were raised in song, and soccer balls rolled across the mud has lasted for more than a century. A legacy of peace. Today, Silent Night is recognized by UNESCO as part of the world's cultural heritage, celebrated for its universal message of calm and hope. And the Christmas Truce of 1914 remains one of the most touching stories of World War I, a moment when ordinary men created their own peace in defiance of war itself. A simple song born in a small Austrian church, traveled across continents, crossed languages, and eventually softened a battlefield into silence. For one holy night and one unforgettable soccer match, peace was real.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Devolved. Definition: to gradually worsen, fall apart, or break down into a lower or more chaotic state. Example: what began as a quick battle eventually devolved into months of trench warfare. 2. Trench. Definition: a long, narrow ditch dug in the ground, often used by soldiers for protection during war. Example: the soldiers waited in the trench, cold and exhausted, as the winter wind cut through the battlefield. 3. Unbearable. Definition: too difficult, painful, or unpleasant to endure. Example: the noise of constant shelling made life at the front almost unbearable. 4. Flickering. Definition: shining or burning unsteadily, as if a light is quickly growing brighter and dimmer. Example: the flickering candles on the German Christmas trees glowed softly in the night. 5. Keepsakes. Definition: small objects kept to remember a person, place, or moment. Example: during the truce, soldiers traded buttons and badges as keepsakes of the unusual day of peace. 6. Joint burial services. Definition: funeral rituals carried out together by two or more groups, often to honor the dead with shared respect. Example: soldiers from both sides took part in joint burial services to lay the fallen to rest with dignity. 7. Spontaneous. Definition: happening suddenly and without planning, done naturally or on impulse. Example: the soccer games were spontaneous, breaking out as soon as someone kicked a ball into no man's land. 8. Crater. Definition: a large hole in the ground, usually caused by an explosion. Example: the field was uneven, covered with craters from weeks of artillery fire. 9. Kickabout. Definition: an informal, casual game of soccer, with no set teams or strict rules. Example: the soldiers enjoyed a friendly kickabout, laughing as they slipped in the mud. 10. Hilarious. Definition: extremely funny or amusing. Example: the sight of soldiers chasing a ball while wearing heavy coats was hilarious to everyone watching. 11. In defiance of. Definition: acting against something, showing resistance or refusing to obey. Example: the soldiers' decision to exchange gifts in defiance of official orders became a powerful memory of peace.
Comprehension questions. 1. Where and when was the song Silent Night first performed? Answer: it was first performed in 1818. At the small parish church in Oberndorf, Austria, on Christmas Eve. 2. What historical situation influenced Joseph Moore when he wrote the poem for Silent Night? Answer: Europe was recovering from the Napoleonic Wars, and many people were living in hardship, poverty, and uncertainty. 3. Why did Moore ask Franz Gruber to compose music for the poem? Answer: the church organ was reportedly damaged, possibly from rust or floodwaters, so Moore needed a simple melody that could be played on a guitar for Christmas Mass. 4. Who helped spread Silent Night beyond Austria, and how? Answer: Karl Moricher, an organ builder, carried the song to the Tyrolean Alps, where traveling folk singing families like the Strassers and Rainers performed it widely. 5. When and where was Silent Night first performed in the United States? Answer: in 1839, at a performance by the Rainer family in New York City. 6. Why did Silent Night become familiar to soldiers across Europe by 1914? Answer: the song had spread internationally, been translated into multiple languages, and become a common Christmas tradition in many countries. 7. What sparked the beginning of the Christmas Truce on December 24, 1914? Answer: German soldiers placed small Christmas trees on their trench edges and began singing Stille Nacht, which British soldiers recognized and answered with carols of their own. 8. How did soldiers first show they were willing to stop fighting? Answer: they called out Christmas greetings across no man's land and slowly climbed out of their trenches. 9. Name 3 types of small gifts exchanged during the truce. Answer: cigarettes or cigars, food items like sausages or puddings, and small souvenirs such as badges. 10. What practical and emotional purpose did joint burial ceremonies serve during the truce? Answer: they allowed both sides to respectfully bury fallen soldiers and briefly come together in shared humanity. 11. What evidence suggests that soccer games really occurred during the Christmas Truce? Answer: first-hand accounts from soldiers, including diaries and letters, describe actual kickabouts with leather balls or improvised balls like tins or rags. 12. What did one British veteran say the soccer games felt like? And why is that meaningful? Answer: he said it felt like being back at school again, showing how the truce briefly restored a sense of normal life during a brutal war. 13. What locations are known for having hosted the soccer games? Answer: Frelinghen in France, Wolvergem in Belgium, and parts of the Ypres salient. 14. What deeper meaning did the soccer games hold beyond entertainment? Answer: they symbolized shared humanity. Men who had been fighting each other played together as equals, replacing fear and violence with teamwork and laughter. 15. How did the song Silent Night play a role in creating this historic moment of peace? Answer: its gentle and familiar melody softened the soldiers' hearts, reminding them of home and encouraging them to set aside their weapons and reach out to one another.